Hey, so this is the Recklessly Skeptical Podcast. My name's Matt.
This is Joe.
And my name is Josh.
Today is October 30th, 2016. And we just want to say we're
Happy Halloween.
No, fuck Halloween. It's of the devil. No. We just want to say it's good to be back. We're happy to be back. We haven't made a podcast in like 4 months.
It's been a while.
It's definitely been a while. So we hope you guys enjoy the podcast. We hope you guys subscribe and listen to us.
Yeah, welcome back. And we blame Matt. Joe and I do. We blame Matt.
Yes.
Matt was the cause.
We blame him.
I was the cause.
At least we were moved into a studio in Matt's house, so we've upgraded in that sense. We have a room dedicated to recording and to podcasting.
I like it. It feels very professional.
Yes. Before we were scrunched on this tiny little table, just hidden in a basement. Now we have a room with a big table, and it's a lot better. So
yes,
it's like I know which beer's mine too now.
Yeah.
And another cool thing is, well, actually not another cool thing. Another part of introductions. My channel on YouTube is zzzgiantawake, and
we are the Evil Atheists.
Although I haven't me and Matt don't live together anymore, so
it's hard.
We don't make videos together, so it's turned into the Evil Atheists.
Yes,
and every time he makes a video, I get sad. And he's like, "Did you see the new video?" And I'm like, "No."
Joe, why don't you make your own videos and try and make Matt jealous?
Yeah,
do it.
Make your own channel.
Well, maybe I will.
Maybe you will.
Yeah.
But first, I need to get kicked out of my house, and then find a place to live, and then start my new job and do all that fun stuff.
So,
well, some little more introductions since it's been a while. We just wanted to let you guys know. So me and Joe were brothers, and we grew up here in Utah. We grew up FLDS. We are no longer FLDS, obviously.
Thank God.
We are now atheists. And Josh over here, he grew up Mormon, and he is no longer Mormon. And
thank God.
He is an atheist.
Yeah, so we also consider ourselves skeptics, and we love science as well as we like secularism a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Tend to lean that way, and we're also pretty liberal-leaning, so hopefully that gives you a good introduction to who we are if this is your first time listening.
But liberal-leaning, not completely liberal. I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, so there'll be some topics where, there's some good banter back and forth.
Yeah,
so.
And we don't do identity politics here. Like, none of us, I should say, well, one party is a monolith, and we're going to just subscribe to the Democrats because that's where we agree with the most. Like, there are things that we absolutely, each of us disagree with as far as, like, policy positions. Like, like guns, that becomes a topic that we disagree about.
Yep.
Yeah.
And just
strongly.
as a little piece of information, to show you how we're not identity politics, every person here voted for somebody else for president, but we'll get into that later.
Yeah. Yes.
What? Who'd you vote for? Oh, never mind. I'll just wait. I'll wait.
And I'll have an explanation.
We all have explanations.
Okay. Not as good as sexplanations.
Oh, sexting.
Wait, what's a
Weiner.
explanation?
It's an explanation that involves sex.
Oh, I like that.
All right, so we have 9 days left until the election. So that's something else to take to note while you're listening to this. So 9 days, 10 days we'll know whether, well, we might not know. It depends on how hung up the actual voting is. But 10 days we should know who's going to be our next president.
Well, 9, technically, by the time we post this, it'll be Halloween.
Oh, fuck.
It'll be tomorrow.
Yeah.
So,
But we're recording this October 30th, so.
Yes. Yeah. So we'll get into that a little bit. Which story do we want to start off with? Oh, I guess we should start off with the stolen thought.
Stolen thought.
Normally brought to you by Matt, but delegated to me today.
Yep.
And
so this is where we steal somebody else's wisdom and play it off as our own. Just
I
kidding.
like that.
And this is John Adams' letter to Jonathan Jackson in October 1780. And the quote that I'm taking from this is, "There is nothing which I dread so much as a division of the Republic into two great parties, each arranged under its leader and concerting measures in opposition to each other. This is my humble apprehension, is to be dreaded as the greatest political evil under our Constitution. We cannot have a bad governor at present. We may not possibly have the best that may be found, but we shall have a good one who means to do no evil to this country, but as much good as he can. So the first part of the quote is the reason why I read that, because, yeah, fuck the two-party system.
Really, it's a sham. It is a sham.
And it beats down the little guy, and it makes it so the two parties control absolutely everything, and they want it that way because it's easier to stay in power when you're only opposing one other person. When you're opposing 4 other people, it's a lot harder for you to stay in power.
Yeah. And then it encourages identity politics, which we're all against. I think that's a good point. And then also, like, there are things that I don't care as much about as other people do. Like, guns are one of those things that I'm like, but I can't stand, like, taking away women's rights, a woman's right to choose. Like, that's unbearable to me. Whereas for other people, that's the opposite is true. So instead of, like, us coming together in some middle ground, we end up playing identity politics.
Yep, absolutely. And it just becomes more and more polarized.
Yes.
Yeah. See, like, with me, like, having a woman being able to choose, it's her own body, the same way I want to be able to choose to defend my home. You know what I mean? You're taking my right away to choose to do that or not. Just like, how the right wants to take away the left's, or a woman's right to her own body.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
but nobody,
the same thing to me.
Yes, but nobody here, I don't think, is for banning any guns. Just more regulation.
Yeah, no, I agree with more regulation. I just think the whole banning
what's
of guns
interesting
altogether is stupid.
When I talk to people, sorry, we're going on a side tangent, but when I talk to people that are pro Second Amendment, right wingers, but when you actually start dissecting it, a lot of them will say, "Yeah, I'm for more regulation."
Yeah, no, they're actually,
a lot of them
actually agree. Yeah, and
it's like if we could just compromise, like you're saying, Josh, if we actually could have a constructive conversation, we could find a middle ground. But let's get back to it.
Okay. And then one last side tangent to close this out is that the other thing that a two-party system does is it creates a polarization of where we're getting our information from. Like, right-wing people tend to listen to Fox News, and sometimes we'll get stuff from, like, the far right or the alt-right, like Breitbart. And the left people like listen to MSNBC and CNN and those types of places. And it's like, no, you need to abandon, like, getting your news source from where you get your identity politics from and listen to all the different sides.
And a lot of these pundits, and journalists nowadays are not journalists. They're not telling us, it's like they're not telling you the whole story. They're just telling you one side of the story and how they perceive it. And
I think that's a money and politics issue.
Yeah,
too.
Definitely.
But we'll talk about that.
It's a puppet show.
At a later podcast on a later date. All right, so do you want to go into the two stories you guys have, the secular and the science story, or do you want to go into voting or Anthony's wiener?
I'm all about Anthony's wiener.
So, science and secular story?
Sure, we can do that. So let's start with the secular story. I honestly haven't read through this because I just was given the article by Joe over here. It was better than my article. So we're just going to read a little bit of it, and then we'll discuss it. So the Boston Archdiocese is pouring $850,000 into a last-minute effort to defeat a state ballot measure to legalize marijuana, calling increased drug use a threat to the Catholic Church's health and social service programs. So this is an issue. So, is this an issue of church-state separation? Well, churches are allowed to discuss ballot measures. They're allowed to encourage their members to vote for or against ballot measures if it involves their religious beliefs in some way, and they argue it does. Now, where the problem is that all of us find here that we discussed is the money. They're putting their tax-free money in to try and defeat a state ballot measure.
Yeah.
And what's worse, and I haven't looked into this, but from what I'm seeing, they're putting that money into a an
commercials.
commercial advertisement. And I'm not sure, but a lot of anti-marijuana commercials and advertisements are put out by pharmaceutical companies and alcohol companies.
Yeah, they're mostly funded by pharmaceutical and alcohol companies.
And whether or not that's the case, I mean, if it is the case, that's really bad. But if it's not the case, it's still bad because they're putting tax-free money into politics trying to defeat a ballot measure, which is a good ballot measure. Marijuana should be legalized. Legalize, regulate.
Well, and what's the other thing? So in that article, it says, calling increased drug use a threat to the Catholic Church's health and social service programs. And I saw an article the other day, and I believe it was actually in Massachusetts, or
Charwin.
Charwin. But anyway, it was there, and I think they said medical marijuana has helped 70. They were able to get people with addictions to opioids 75% off of opioid addictions
With marijuana.
with marijuana there in
Massachusetts.
And so, but then right here, it's like a threat to the Catholic Church's health and social service programs. Oh, do you like it when people are addicted to opioids and heroin? Is that what you want? You know, that way you can get more tax breaks from the government and whatever, so you can do. It just drives me nuts. It's like marijuana is actually helping people, and they're saying it's a threat to the Catholic Church's health.
And also in the article, it says that this reflects the fact that the Archdiocese holds the matter among its highest priorities. Its highest priorities is legal marijuana, not child molestation, not AIDS in Africa where they tell people to not use condoms. None of that's its highest priority.
Yeah.
But you sitting on your couch smoking pot and eating Doritos, that's their highest fucking priority.
And I know a lot of really productive people who smoke marijuana. I do know a lot of people who get lazier when they smoke marijuana, granted, but I do know a lot of productive people.
Most of the people I know that smoke weed are like productive members of society. There's really hardly anyone I know that's just a dumb stoner that sits home and doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
So, what, Josh? You don't have anything to say about marijuana?
Well, no. I think you guys are covering it, knocking it out of the park really well.
Alrighty. Well,
I guess I would add that all opiate users started with milk.
Yes.
Well, I know we've
Gateway
talked about
drug.
in other podcasts, but studies show that alcohol is actually the gateway drug and that marijuana is an exit drug. They're using marijuana medically to get people off of other stuff.
Yep. And if we look at mere body count, alcohol kills over 50,000 people in the United States every year. Weed kills nobody unless it falls out of a CIA plane and lands on your fucking head like Joe Rogan says.
Yeah.
All right. So should we move to the science story?
Yeah, I'm totally down for the science story. Do we have like a cool intro sound?
We need to get a theme song for
Here.
Joe.
Like a
Here,
cool-
let's try something.
Yeah.
Now, the science story.
Thank you.
Can you guys
Thank
even
you.
hear it?
I can't even hear that.
Okay.
Is that supposed to be
It was supposed to be
applause?
people clapping and stuff. Just ignore me. Get on with the story, Joe.
Okay. This is this is from Discover magazine. A new chemical process turns carbon dioxide into ethanol using commonly found catalysts and electricity. In a sense, they figured out a way to put the genie back in the bottle. So I'm going to skip ahead to appointed solution because the article is kind of long. The key to their method is how the copper is arranged. First, the researchers create a scaffold made from carbon and nitrogen. The surface is covered in tiny spikes, each about 50 nanometers high. The researchers then deposit copper particles onto the surface, which acts as a catalyst for the reaction. When electricity is run through the material, the reactions are concentrated at the very tips of the spikes. They say providing the energy required for the carbon dioxide dissolved in water to break apart and reform as ethanol. I mean, that's really cool because ethanol, it's a fuel, and carbon dioxide is a
gas.
It's just a gas, you know. It's a dangerous gas too.
Yeah, it's causes global warming.
Yeah, it's extremely bad. So this is, I'm skipping ahead again. This is just a step. Turning carbon dioxide into ethanol won't solve global warming, of course. When we burn ethanol, it will turn into carbon dioxide again, leaving us right back where we started. Making our own ethanol is better than pulling it out of the ground, though, and could help level off our net carbon emissions. The researchers also suggest that it could function as a kind of battery for an electrical grid. If a grid is producing excess power at any time, the extra electricity could be used to fuel this process. Creating ethanol when power is needed, the ethanol could be used as fuel again to create electricity.
Yeah.
So go science. You know?
Yeah, and just to kind of clarify, in case anybody wasn't getting it, because we have kind of the advantage of having read the story before we started.
Yeah. I think Josh is saying our listeners are stupid.
No.
way.
I just want to make sure that it's clear.
Don't say that, Josh.
I'm just joking.
God damn it. But the short of it is that now they've figured out a way to change CO2, which is in the air, back into gasoline, essentially ethanol.
That's just fucking awesome.
So basically, we're taking what's polluting our atmosphere, and we're recycling it. It will turn back. It'll turn back into CO2.
Yeah.
But we're actually able to use it.
Yeah, and
which is pretty incredible.
And CO2 is not toxic to humans, but what happens is that CO2
at certain levels.
Yeah, at certain levels is because it displaces oxygen at high enough level. But the point is that what's causing global warming or climate change is the fact that we have so much CO2 in our atmosphere that is acting like a blanket, keeping the hot air trapped from the sun in the earth instead of it dissipating into space. So then the ice caps melt, more CO2 is emitted, and it becomes a nightmare. It's supposed to. We're going to go into this feedback loop, which by like 100 years from now is it's going to be out of control. We'll lose essentially all of the polar caps, which we need in order to have a planet that's alive. So the two solutions that they found, and this is one of them. This is like breaking news.
It's really big. It is really big.
The other thing that they've been able to try and do is to pump CO2, because the oceans have hit their peak, and that's why we're having things like bleaching in the ocean, is to pump CO2 into the soil. So essentially we'll have soil that has CO2 trapped in it, which is part of a solution. This is part of a solution. Also going completely renewable energy on electricity is the rest of the solution. But we've gotten past the point where if we don't do something to get the CO2 out of our air, we could end up ruining the planet anyways.
It's one reason why having a president that says global warming was invented by the Chinese is a really bad idea.
And, you know, it's a really bad idea to have a president who says that it isn't invented by the Chinese and says that they're there for making, you know, change, but then getting fed money by the people who are Clinton, Hillary Clinton.
I'll take my bet on Hillary, though. If you know,
Out of the two,
yes.
China.
That's racist, man.
That's the way he says it. I guess.
Is that how he says it?
Oh yeah,
I wish our listeners could see Josh's face. Right?
You could pause it for just a second. We can get the audio. And here it is.
Let's say China. 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 China.
China.
China.
And that's 8 seconds of the 3 minutes that Huffington Post posted.
Of him just saying China.
I want to hear the remix. I don't know. Let's just hit back one, Matt, or just type in China remix right up there.
Go back. And
it wasn't there. Just there you go.
Okay, there's a remix.
All right.
Oh, there's an ad.
Hurry.
okay.
Okay, skip. Oh yeah.
This is Joe's favorite video.
I haven't
Already.
seen it yet, but it just might be.
Already.
Let's say China. 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 China.
China, China, China.
I have to have my China. China.
I have to have my China.
China. China. China. China. China. China.
And just to give credit where credit's due, that's by YouTuber Chris Kogos, spelled K-O-G-O-S.
He did a really good job.
He sure did.
All right.
So,
I guess we'll get to all the bullshit election stuff. Unless we want to cover Bundy Bros first. Let's actually cover the Bundy Bros first, because I had to do a story for that for school.
Josh, what are you going to school for again? Maybe you can let our
para-
listeners know.
Paralegal studies. So right now I'm in Constitution studies and family law. And so one of the stories I covered was about the charges that the Bundy brothers were brought against. And I did this story like 3 weeks ago before this happened. But essentially, if you guys don't remember, Al-Qaeda,
Y'all kind. Oh yeah.
yeah, the people who took over Oregon are like a natural wildlife or a national reserve post.
yeah, I think that's what it was.
But it was a federal government building, and they were taken over by like 30 people who are considering themselves patriots, and they were trying to prove that
They were anti-government militia.
Yeah, there we go. That's the correct term. And so they eventually got or gave up holding out in that building, and some of them took off. And they took off in some vans, and some of the people still stayed held out. But the people who took out in the vans, the FBI was waiting for them. I think it was the FBI. Maybe it was the CIA. But there was essentially one of them. I want to say McVoy or Lavoy.
I think it was Lavoy.
Yeah, he
Lavoy
was
Pinnick
killed.
him. So what happened is then he jumped out of the van, and apparently there were shots fired before that, but he jumped out of the van and kept on reaching for his gun. And these guys were armed in all the videos. There was a lot of press that was allowed up there, and they did a lot of interviews.
They did videos saying like, "I'll kill
Yeah.
government agents." Like,
Yeah.
totally
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and so he kept on reaching into his waist, and after like the third time doing it, he was shot to death. The rest of the people were apprehended, and then they went and apprehended the people at the actual outpost. Ended up like turning themselves in. They were charged with. Let me see if
federal conspiracy and weapons charges.
There we go. And so I thought that this would be a pretty open and closed case, and that's the opinion I gave when I wrote that paper, because he was trying to use freedom of speech and the First and Second Amendment to defend himself, but those get suspended once you start like doing criminal activities, including threatening government officials.
Now, also, when you're breaking the law, and someone is killed during the act, someone that you're conspiring with or whatever, don't you automatically get manslaughter too?
It depends on the state. I would guess with Oregon being a fairly progressive state, they don't have felony murder or what was it called? Yeah, felony murder charges. What that crime is when you're associated with in an act of a felony and somebody gets killed, regardless of whether you're the one who shot him or not, you're charged with murder.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, if you're breaking the law and you're with someone else and that person dies, you could get charged for their murder.
Yeah, and that's even
crazy. I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
yeah.
like if you go rob a bank and your accomplice shoots somebody, then it's felony murder. If your accomplice gets killed by the cops, then it's felony murder.
Yep.
And they will lock you away for life, even if you're a nonviolent person in general. So like, yeah, some of those charges that I think are asinine, but
Yeah.
That seems a little asinine to me.
but
Oh,
this
I
story,
mean, I
But
see
people get charged with it every single day. It happens constantly.
And I'm sure it's just there to deter people from committing crimes, but it's ridiculous.
well, yeah, if you don't know about it, like that's like going to pick up a baggie of marijuana and being in the presence of like somebody getting shot. I mean, there's like any number of reasons why it's been why it's happened. That's absolute nonsense. But getting back to this story, they were all acquitted. 7 of the defendants out of them were just like, the jury found them not guilty. Like, it's not even that they found them not guilty; they just acquitted them. No trial.
And so they were charged with conspiracy, but what it actually is conspiracy to impede federal employees from discharging their duties. So the reason why they were acquitted in that charge is because they technically didn't stop any federal employees from doing their duties, so they say. But what's ridiculous is you can have armed militiamen take over a government building, calling for death and all this stuff, get in a shootout or whatever happened. They completely get acquitted, but you have Native Americans fighting to protect their land from corporate
and burial
oil companies.
grounds.
Yes. And they get arrested and put in dog kennels.
Shot with rubber bullets.
So, the double standard is just bullshit, and whether you agree with me or not,
it really is there, and what's crazy is I never saw it. I was like, whatever, that's bullshit, white privilege, And then I see it now that I actually have heard about white privilege, and I've, now that I look for it, I'm like, okay, I'm going to see if it's really there. And I start looking, and it's like, holy shit, dude. It really is there. These fucking white people raided a fucking federal building, threw all the people out of there, had a standoff, were there for weeks. If they were African American, Native American, or anything, the FBI or whatever would have stormed the place after the first day. I'm sure everyone would have been shot, and if you weren't shot, you would have been arrested. But these guys were there for weeks. And
I think
they
it
let
was
them,
6 weeks.
It was over a month. And then finally they all get arrested. One of them dies. But then now they're all acquitted.
Yeah, and that's the part that makes me the most mad is that if it wasn't for Lavoy, let me again find his name.
I think, Lavoy.
Lavoy Finicum?
Finicum. Yeah, if Lavoy didn't die, I would almost be all right with them getting acquitted, because I want there to be less punishment for the crimes that are being committed in general. I think that our justice system is way, way overhyped.
Well, it's because it's, prison for profit.
Yeah, and the drug wars make a lot of people rich, and including the pharmaceutical companies. Again, this all ties back to money and politics. Follow the money, Lebowski. It's all about the money.
It really is.
That's him right there. I know our listeners can't see, but we have a picture of him pulled up.
Maybe
he looks kind of like Clint Eastwood.
Maybe Matt will inlay a photo of him over that part, or over this part.
I'll do my best. All right, so
that's not good enough.
Do you guys have anything else you want to add here?
I don't know. It really is a joke. White privilege, and I see not everybody is affected by it. Not all black people are affected by it. Not all white people are affected by it. I know a lot of white people have gone to jail for stupid reasons, and there are some black people who get away with shit. But it is there.
Yeah, and this is a jury that acquitted them. So it wasn't like I don't think the FBI or the CIA or whatever group it was that arrested them, I don't think that they wanted the charges to be dropped. I just think that the jury's like, oh, I understand what they're doing. It's not a big deal. They were just taking over a government building for a little while to prove a point. So they don't really deserve felony charges, so we'll just vote to acquit them, and then have other charges against them in Nevada. And so, I mean, I wasn't with the jury, but that seems like reasonably what would have happened, because it's obvious that there was So let's move on to the stupid Anthony Weiner story that we've been plugging the whole fucking podcast.
Yeah.
So Anthony Weiner, Matt, do you have this one, or do you want me to get it? Oh, party foul, motherfucker.
Oh, there's beer everywhere.
It's not everywhere.
I do not have this one pulled up. I'm pulling it up right now.
All right. So I've got, for Democrats, Anthony Weiner makes an unwelcome return this is on the New York Times. And it says, Carolyn B. Maloney, the congresswoman from the Upper East Side, was riding in a taxi on Friday when she heard the news. Emails discovered in an investigation into Anthony Weiner's sexting had revived the FBI's case, or interest in the case of Hillary Clinton's private email server. So this is kind of big news. It's 2 weeks out from the election when the story broke, and Anthony Weiner is an interesting character. He seems to not be able to not send sexual pictures, especially to young adults.
Yeah.
This is the second time that he's been caught doing it, and it caused him and his wife to to separate, and they're in the process of divorcing. So what ended up happening is, because this last one had to do with a woman who was possibly under the age of consent.
I think she was 15.
Yeah, and she was a Republican too, which makes it more weird. Like, what the fuck is he thinking? Who knows? But he like did this sexting thing with her through Twitter. Like they met through Twitter, and then he started sending her dick pics again. And so the FBI investigated it and found emails from Clinton's server on his computer, or Clinton emails on his computer.
Yeah, they're from his former wife, his ex-wife, I believe, right? Because his ex-wife was an aide to Hillary, correct?
Yeah, is currently is like one of the top aides for Hillary.
Okay. So, and it was emails to or from her.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so somehow they ended up on his computer, which they shouldn't have been there anyways. Like, her top aide shouldn't be using Anthony Weiner's equipment. God damn it.
There's the jokes write themselves, people.
Yeah, I'm trying not to make light of this situation. But, yeah, so with this breaking, what it does is it's a talking point. Like, who's the guy who's in charge of the FBI investigation? It was
Comey?
Yes. And he like supposedly is releasing this data because he's supposed to, but that's not necessarily the case. That's not true. He it sounds like he's spiking this, possibly to be controversial or to create controversy, like 2 weeks before the election.
I wouldn't be surprised. I heard that the Justice Department or the FBI, whoever it is saying that he didn't actually follow protocol. First, he was saying he had to follow protocol. He had to send that so he could get a judge's order so he could read the emails. But from what I'm hearing now is that's not correct. And a little side note, he is a Republican.
Yeah.
Who, Comey?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know. I heard he was on the Clinton Foundation payroll before. I don't know if it's true. Also, though, but they could have pressed charges before. He came out and said that. Under normal circumstances, over something like that, they could have pressed charges, but they didn't. They didn't press charges against Hillary. Maybe he wanted to, and he was scared or whatever, and he thought maybe this might help.
Oh, yeah, and maybe he's conniving and decided that, well, hey, I'm going to do as much damage even though I don't have enough information to spike her. It's really hard to read what James Comey's thought process is in any of this.
Yeah.
So it's not like there's a clear, explicit purpose to what he's doing and why he's doing it. And a lot of people, like, I was convinced that he was doing it because it was protocol, but news stories say that it's not protocol. So, yeah. Any other Weiner jokes?
Nah, I'm good.
And what's funny is, so I did read a joke online, and so this is a used joke, and I can't give credit to where it's deserved because it was in a meme. But apparently Donald Trump's thing was called Pussygate, and now people are calling this Weinergate. So our elections had Pussy and Weinergate combined into an epic. Goddamn, this election is
2016 election. What a clusterfuck.
Yes.
I know Trump did say this most latest thing with her emails is bigger than Watergate. And it's absolute bullshit. We don't know what's in those emails. It could be absolutely nothing. It could be something. We have no idea. And from what I've heard, there's around 3 emails. So just the fact that Trump's saying it's bigger than Watergate is ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't think that they're going to find anything. Like, I wish that... Well, so first off, I wish that this had come out, like, a long time ago. But, of course, it's apparently coming out because of Weiner's mistakes. But
they have a mind of their own, Josh.
Yes. But they're out now, and it happened now, and he could have held on to that information for 2 more weeks. And now it's going to make people second guess. And actually, you know what? People should be second guessing this entire election. This has been a shit show.
This is the 3rd presidential election I've participated in, voted in. And what's interesting is the first one I voted in, I was confident about my vote. The second one I voted in, I was confident about my vote. This one, I voted. I have reasons why I voted, but...
You haven't voted yet.
Well, I filled out my ballot and sealed it. I haven't mailed it in. But, you can ask my fiance. I filled out all of my ballot, and I walked around for an hour before I filled in the presidential one, just because every candidate sucks.
Yeah, my ballot's been blank on the presidential one, but I know who I'm voting for. But yeah.
Yeah, I filled mine out for Jill Stein. As soon as
job.
Bernie dropped out, I moved over to Jill Stein. I've been looking at her, researching her. She's basically on par with Bernie Sanders. Most of that pseudoscience shit is propaganda.
So let's talk about that in
Yes.
just a minute. Let's hold off. We've got one last story, and then we'll get into the full-fledged who we're voting for president and why. So the last story that we wanted to talk about was fucking the most goddamn frustrating Senate that we've ever had. With the most, what is it called when you block people over and over again? There's a term for it. Obstructionist. The most obstructionist Senate and House that we've ever had in the history of America.
It's unprecedented.
Yeah.
And the one that is for the first time and only time saying we're going to wait until the next president comes in. We're going to hold off putting a Supreme Court justice into office for over a year. Unprecedented. And they're now talking about, hey, if we hold a majority, we're not going to let Hillary Clinton put anybody into the Supreme Court either.
And we actually have audio of them saying that.
Yeah, so the two people leading this charge, who are they, Matt?
McCain, who I normally like fairly, as a Republican.
Yeah.
And our favorite Republican, Ted Cruz.
Yeah, Ted Cruz needs to jump off a building.
So here's some audio of McCain basically saying we will block any Supreme Court nominee from Hillary indefinitely.
Yeah, and this was on an interview. I wish I knew where the interview was from exactly, or a podcast, but I'll have to look that up and post that in the comments section, or not the comment section, the description. Matt will post it.
How would you guys? How would you be able to stop that when you weren't able to stop Sotomayor, for example?
I think in the case of Sotomayor, they were able to convince some Republicans. I promise you that we will be united against any Supreme Court nominee that Hillary Clinton, if she were president, would put up. And I promise you, this is why we need the majority.
Yeah, so he's going to block it, and there are other things. And here's what Ted Cruz said. There's certainly a long historical precedent for a Supreme Court with fewer justices, meaning that he's willing to go ahead and do that. And then the Cato Institute also released a statement. As a matter of constitutional law, the Senate is fully within its powers to let the Supreme Court die out, literally.
That is such bullshit. And this is a big deal because there are always cases coming up. This state rules that this should be legal, and this state over here rules that this should be illegal. And individual citizens challenging certain states on their own rights as Americans, and things need to go up to the Supreme Court so things can be decided. And if they just keep splitting 4-4, we're never going to get anywhere, and nothing's going to get fixed.
Yeah, and what's weird about it is then what happens is there's not an official ruling on the case. So what happens is it goes to the standing of the prior court, or to the decision by the prior court, but it's not binding outside of the case that it was in. So that means that no major decisions can be made, or no sweeping decisions can be made if it's a split court.
And who was the Supreme Justice that died recently? Scalia.
Yeah.
And Trump said he wanted to nominate Scalia clones, and there's been talk about the potential of some of the court nominees dying in the next years or leaving.
Yeah.
So if Trump was elected and he picked, one more Scalia, okay, that's fine.
And Scalia was bad.
Yeah, so the court's just going to be where it was before, but maybe he puts a Scalia in there, and then maybe another judge dies or leaves, and he puts 3 more Scalias in there. It's pretty scary.
Yeah, and it's not even that, though. Like, the fact that they're willing to let the Supreme Court...
No, I know. That's just a different side of it.
Yes, but the fact that they're willing to let the Supreme Court die out literally is like a complete abridgment to what the Constitution is meant to do. It's meant to give us a functioning government and the protocol on how to. And actually, I was talking to my constitutional professor on this one, too, on this circumstance, and he's of the opinion that the president is within his power, he said, to let me pull up the exact wording of it. So in Section 2 of the Constitution, it says about the president, who is the commander-in-chief, is that he shall have power by and with the advice and consent of Senate to make treaties, provided 2/3 of the senators present concur, and he shall nominate and by and with the advice and consent of the Senate shall appoint ambassadors and other public ministers and counsel, judges of the Supreme Court, and all other officers of the United States. And it continues on. But in that clause, it's they have the right to advise and consent. Because the justices aren't even listening to the Supreme Court or listening to him at all, what my constitutional professor said that they should do is if he was in Obama's position, that he would appoint the justice and say, well, you chose not to consent. You chose not to advise. You waived your right to do so. And then let them figure it out in the Supreme Court, because the Supreme Court is going to say, yeah, motherfuckers, we need 9 justices. So
I like that.
That's what he was saying that they should do. If they refuse to consent or they refuse to advise, if they refuse to do any of it, then they're waiving that right. It's like you don't have to say, I am waiving a right to actually waive a right. If you choose not to be silent by talking, you're waiving your right to silence. If you're choosing to explicitly give out details about a crime you've committed, you have waived the right to like self-incrimination. Those types of things can be waived through actions, and I think that is a strong case that would hold up in front of a Supreme Court.
It's really sad and pathetic how, like you said, Josh, obstructionists, this Congress, Senate, the Republicans have been recently in the last 4-8 years. It really is like nothing we've seen before.
Yeah, and so this is one of the main reasons that you need to get out and vote. Fortunately for us, though, it looks like the Republicans are going to lose the fucking Senate, which is, thank God for that. Like, at least the Democrats will have one of the houses back, and it will give some position to negotiate. And it also, there's some things that I want to emphasize now in the podcast, and hopefully moving forward, is that the time to start worrying about the 2020 elections is now. Like, if you want to start getting more liberal people in place, people who actually give a fuck about money in politics, who give a fuck about securing our future for ourselves, who gives a fuck about the middle class, like, you need to start doing research now. You need to start paying attention now. You need to start working with people in your local governments now. It's not, you don't want to wait until 2019 to try and have an effect on the 2020 elections.
And it's not just done by picking a president.
Yeah, it's all major movements. Anytime that we've had a constitutional amendment that has been for the people, it has taken years to fight for, and it has been from the bottom up, not from the top down.
Yeah, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, civil rights, women's rights to vote, those types of things always come from the bottom up. And
yeah, like it wasn't the president saying, you know what, I think the women have the right to vote. Or, you know what, I think black people should be freed. It started from the bottom up. Finally, after so many people fought back and fought for something, then things started to change.
Yeah, so get involved at the bottom level, at the base level. Get to know. Like, take your ballot. Like, when you get a ballot, pay attention to who's on the ballot. Go follow them on Twitter. Follow them on social media, and you can try and get an idea of who they are and whether you like them or not, or whether you agree with them or not, and how you can help them become more well known. And even by following them on Twitter and Facebook, that kind of gives them some level of publicity, because they're now friends with your friends, or friends of friends, or whatever, however Facebook and Twitter does it.
Yeah.
So, but right now, according to 538, just to cover the Senate race, there's a 71% that Democrats will take control of the Senate, and 29% that Republicans will retain control. And it's been like going back and forth, and who knows, after the Weiner Gate issue has broken, who knows if it'll shift back again, because right now it's been sliding back and forth. Anytime there's been a breaking news story, it shifts about 3 to 6 points. So if it switches 3 to 6 points back in favor of the Republicans, we may be in some trouble. Both in the presidential race, if you would prefer Hillary to win, and also in the Senate races, which we would hope that you're done with this obstructionist bullshit.
Preach it, brother. Preach it.
Yes.
I love your rants, by the way.
Thank you. So let's go to the presidential race, and then we'll talk about the president. So 538, again, is the site that I'm using. Matt's got Real Clear Politics pulled up. Right now, according to them, Hillary Clinton has a 78% chance to win. Donald Trump has a 21.5% chance to win. And Johnson has 0, and Stein has 0, unfortunately. It's .001 or whatever. And then technically, Evan McMullen has a better chance of winning than other the other two third-party candidates.
And I believe the reason they're looking at it that way is because of what I talked about earlier, is if he can keep Hillary and Clinton from getting to 270, it would go to the Congress or Senate or whatever, and they would be able to pick him.
Yeah.
And for some reason, they are seeing that statistically higher than Gary or Johnson or Jill Stein.
Well, yeah, because they would Gary Johnson and Jill Stein would have to get 270 electoral votes, whereas Evan McMullen just has to stop both parties from getting there, which is easier to do.
Yes.
But it looks like unless this shifts back majorly in Trump's favor, it looks like she should get there pretty easily. He has recently taken Ohio, Iowa, and Arizona back, but she still holds fairly strong leads in Colorado and Pennsylvania and New Hampshire, which are the three states that if she wins, she's got it pretty locked down. If she wins Florida, in addition to those, it's over. All right, so let's talk about who the fuck we're voting for. I think Matt has the least controversial normative answer to that.
Are you sure about that?
In this room, it's probably very controversial.
All right. Well, I filled out my early ballot. It's sealed. I'm going to mail it in, and I voted for Hillary Clinton. Like I said earlier, I paced in my kitchen for like an hour. So I can give you guys some brief reasons why. Or why don't we just go around and tell everybody who we voted for, and then we can get into it. So
I think you should say why now, and then I'll go into. I think we should each have our minute. So go.
Okay.
Go.
Yeah. So I voted for Hillary Clinton. There's a few reasons. I didn't like it, by the way, but
well, as long as you can admit that, like
no, I told everybody I'm gonna vote for Hillary Clinton, then punch myself in the face. So and to give a little backstory, I voted for Gary Johnson 4 years ago, so I understand the whole give the third parties 5% and not voting for the lesser two evils and all that. I understand that. I did that 4 years ago. But this election is different from my point of view. I see Hillary and Trump, they both suck. I see the other candidates, they suck. None of them actually have a chance of winning. So the two that have a chance of winning, I would rather have Hillary for multiple reasons. For the Supreme Court, I think that's a big deal. On climate change, even though she's not trustworthy, she is more trustworthy than Trump, who says climate change was invented by the fucking Chinese and it's not fucking real and we need to deregulate everything. She is more trustworthy. Another reason is you look at their VP choices. I have a little list here.
We'll hold on to that portion of it.
Okay, so those are some basic reasons. And then just a few things. Trump wants to get rid of abortion rights. He's not for a lot of basic social issues. He's not for marijuana. I'm not saying Hillary is, but she would tend to lean that way more than him.
Would she?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that Trump is the worst candidate we've ever seen in our lifetimes, and that's why me and Matt worked together on the project called Donald Trump is the worst presidential candidate of all time.
And we started that shit over a year ago.
Yeah.
And we never thought he would get the nomination.
No, I would have hoped that God damn it, I would have hoped that the Republican Party was more sane than that. And also, there is some effect that I can't remember what's his name, the documentarian, whatever, who makes
Michael Moore.
Yeah, Michael Moore said that a lot of people see him as a way to say fuck you to the system,
which is bullshit because Trump is the system.
Yeah, but they're symbolically trying to say fuck you.
Yeah, but in this aspect, symbolically saying fuck you to the system is bullshit when the person you're electing is part of the system. That's just asinine.
So I'm voting for Gary Johnson, and there's
I did that last time.
There's a few different reasons why, and Matt alluded to some of them. One is that I think that Gary Johnson is, as a third-party representative, even though he does not, he's the people currently in the race, he would represent me third out of five. So, I disagree with him more than I agree with him, in all honesty. And Jill Stein is who I would agree with the most, and she's who I would vote for, all things being equal, but all other things are not equal, unfortunately.
And can I just add something?
Sure.
I just want to say I respect your guys' vote of voting third party. A lot of people don't. I appreciate and respect your votes because I did it and I understand the reasoning behind it.
Yeah, and I get why you did what you did too, sinner. But the reason why I voted for him is I want to have more parties in the debates. I want to have more parties who have more equal footing. And so
Totally.
I think that Johnson and the Libertarians are the most likely to get above 5% this year, and therefore kind of giving them a better chance. And I also think that in the future that they're going to be the party that might overrun the Republicans, but more likely they're going to get enveloped by the Republican Party. But that's going to bring the Republican Party further left on a lot of issues.
But further right on other issues as well.
On some issues, yes.
Yes.
But that's how I feel about the Green Party as well, too. I honestly think that so remember how I was a part of so many different Bernie groups.
Yeah.
So many different Bernie groups. And then after Bernie dropped out, so many people who were part of the Bernie groups switched over to Jill Stein.
Sure.
And I honestly think that she's the Green Party this year is going to get 5%, at least over 5%.
I don't know.
I would love that to be true.
Last time Gary Johnson got 1%.
But then also you got to keep in mind
this election is different, though.
Most of these polls you're seeing are coming from right wing and left wing news. And they're leaving, especially the left wing, they're leaving out a lot of the majority voters.
Especially the left wing. What does that even mean?
They're leaving out a lot of the majority of the voters, which is what, ages 18 to 35.
Yeah,
and most of the votes, those were the people who were voting for Bernie in the first place. And Bernie was getting an extreme amount of voters. Most of those people have left and gone over to Jill Stein and stuff, and they're leaving those people out of the polls when they do those polls.
Well, they do. They have, and I'm not saying it's right. I disagree with a lot of it, but they have certain algorithms where they do likely voters.
Okay,
and it is an accurate understanding of.
And we should talk about this, but let's let Joe talk about more reasons on why he's actually voting for Jill Stein.
Yeah,
instead
Joe.
of...
So Joe's voting for Jill Stein. Why?
Well, she's mainly on par with Bernie Sanders. And that's...
what issues do you care about that are driving you that way, though?
Well, mostly, like you look at minimum wage. She wants it raised. You look at the health industry. She wants the same thing Bernie wanted, the
universal medicine.
The universal medicine. And then, I mean, there's
single
other
payer.
Single payer, yeah. And then there's other issues that she talks about, too, that doesn't affect me personally, but I can see. You look at student debt nowadays, and college is sham. You know, it's there to get money, you know. And, like, seeing you in college, it's like I would like to see your student debt dropped.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I would like to see you get the education that you need without going completely into debt for the next 40 fucking 50 years.
Yeah,
you know?
I agree with all those. I think those are
and I think out of the 5 candidates that are in the race right now, that Jill Stein does best portray my opinions and my feelings about things.
Yeah, I think so too.
But yeah, okay, so quickly to touch on the biases that Joe is talking about, is that the people who do polling do have a blind spot to potential new voters because what they undervalue the unlikely voters. So there's likely and unlikely voters, and so they try and leave out the unlikely voters, which are first-time voters, young voters.
Because they are unlikely to vote.
Yeah. And so...
But that's the thing, though. Like, Bernie Sanders, man, he lit a fire up everybody's ass.
Yes.
And I think so many more people have gotten into politics this election than ever before. Like, I could be totally wrong, but so many people who I never thought would vote were calling me up, messaging me on Facebook. Okay, so what do I do? How do I do the caucus? And I was letting them all know how to do it, and then they were all going, and they all went and did it, and like they were all really excited about it. And most of those people, and even people on Facebook, all these different Facebook groups, they all left. I think I joined every single state's Bernie Sanders Facebook group there was. and then after Bernie quit, most of them were like, I'm going green, you know, and most of them were talking about going green before even Bernie even quit.
Yeah.
And then when Bernie did quit, they were all like, I'm going green. Then most of those Facebook pages changed to Jill Stein Facebook pages.
Yeah.
And so I honestly think, but then I left a lot of those Facebook pages. I couldn't handle it anymore. I got so sad. But
I'm right there with you, brother.
yeah. But
Yep.
I stopped taking polls. I stopped doing that, but I'm still voting. You know what I mean? I think a lot of other people were discouraged and possibly stopped doing the polls and stopped, you know, and I honestly think Jill Stein will get over 5%. I honestly think
I hope
Gary Johnson will get over 5%.
I hope so, too.
because
I know
that guarantees
so many,
they're on the ballot.
exactly, and so many fucking people I've met are like, what? I've met more people who are confused about Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton being the nominees than people who are voting for them. And so I honestly think more people are going to be voting for third party this year in order. It is dangerous. You know, if Trump does get elected, he could be, you know, he could change the Supreme Court. He could do all that. You know what I mean? That is dangerous. It's very scary. But I think we're at a point in history where everybody's like, fuck the two-party system.
Yeah.
Fuck it.
And I'm right there with you. I just took a different look at it this time.
And I understand.
I was hoping.
Yeah.
I appreciate what you guys are doing.
Yeah.
And I hope you can appreciate what I did, because I'm like, I got my peeps that are trying to get the third parties above 5%, which I think is good, and I'm over here trying to stop Trump.
Here's
By
Save abortion rights.
By voting for
Joe,
Mrs. Trump.
Joe.
No,
No,
she's not. She is definitely better than Trump. And if we want to think logically, those two people. One of them is going to be president. That's a fact.
Well, Joe, what do you sound
Well,
like?
it's gonna be Hillary Clinton. They've already rigged it.
Give me
Oh, come on.
Give me a second. Joe, he sounds like one of those religious people who's like, I respect your choice to not believe anything,
But I'm gonna
you should
believe.
respect my choice to believe.
Oh, come
For
on.
real, huh?
I try and do the right thing, and what do? I
That's
get,
exactly what Christians say.
I get
I'm just trying to do the
chastised.
right thing. This is Christian prosecution.
What if I voted for Trump?
That would be awful. You'd be an awful person.
I feel that's the thing. I would feel probably about equal about it.
I would feel different. I would not be happy. I mean, I really did consider
They are
voting.
clearly different.
I really did consider
Sure.
between the three. Actually, I've considered between everybody besides Trump. I've
So-
never considered voting for Trump. But I've
Let
considered
me ask Josh this question.
Sure.
So, Josh, you made a deal with a friend to vote for
The devil.
Gary Johnson.
Yes.
What if you didn't make that deal? Would you have voted Jill Stein?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. At this point, yeah. I just.
You should have just voted Jill Stein. She's the next president of the United States.
He
of
stopped
America.
somebody from voting for Trump.
Yeah. So.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. Part of the reason why I was leaning towards voting for Gary Johnson and trying to get people to vote for Gary Johnson because Utah, the only way Utah's going to swing, I have a better chance of getting people to not vote for Trump than I do of getting people to vote for Hillary Clinton out of my friends on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
And so my thought process was, well, hey, maybe I can get a couple of people to not vote for Donald Trump if I vote for Gary Johnson. But then Evan McMullen broke. That was like, no, and that's fine. Like, Evan McMullen winning doesn't help Trump, and it doesn't hurt.
It's good.
And it
I hope
doesn't
he
hurt
wins.
Trump. It stops Hillary from. It doesn't help Hillary. It doesn't help Trump. It doesn't hurt either of them either. If he pauses it, then it can only possibly stop Trump from getting in, and it can also, it can only stop Trump from getting in.
Yeah, it hurts Trump. That's all it does. Because
Yeah,
it denies
exactly.
him.
But it doesn't help Hillary because it doesn't help her
Yes,
get in.
I agree. But it denies Trump some votes that are usually guaranteed to the Republican nominee.
And I like that Utah might vote for a third party that's not Donald Trump because it tells, hey, there is a point where if you start choosing conservatives who are bigoted, who plead to the alt-right, who do things like that, guess what? Some of these votes, some of these electoral votes that you normally would get guaranteed, you're not going to get. And I wish that more states were following that path, but I mean, maybe we'll get Georgia. There's a chance that we'll get Georgia, Arizona, and Utah will end up going third party, which would be incredible. But it would be more incredible, and I guarantee that would have happened had Bernie Sanders been the candidate instead of Hillary Clinton.
Yep. Well, do you guys have any other thoughts?
No, just don't play with Anthony Weiner. Just delete him.
Yeah.
He needs to lose his phone.
Lose the wiener.
Don't get on his computer. What was his wife doing on his computer?
Well, no, it sounds like
She was probably like looking at his.
She was probably trying to see if he was cheating, and then found all this other crazy shit, and was like, "The fuck."
I was just sending emails.
Yeah, supposedly there's the. I guess if we want to get conspiratorial, that he's going to be dead before Christmas.
Because Hillary has a kill list.
Yeah.
Alrighty, well, should we end this podcast?
Yeah, let's get to the end.
I guess we're ending it, huh?
Do you have something, Joe?
No, I don't know. I love you people.
Yeah, I missed you guys a lot. So again, this is October 30th, 2016. This will probably be released October 31st. Please be sure.
Is Halloween.
Yes. So please be sure to like us, rate, comment, subscribe, share, all that shit. And also join us on Facebook, the Evil Atheist Facebook group page.
And remember to go to our personal YouTube pages, The Evil Atheist. And atheist is plural. I just said it without an S, but there's an S at the end. And then Josh, which is zzzgiantawake. Remember to go there.
Check out Recklessly Skeptical on YouTube and Spreaker. Also, Josh and Matt tried to get it on iTunes. They couldn't figure it out, so I'm giving a go at it.
Maybe it'll be there one day.
Have a good one.